Hey guys, XJ9 here, and today's gonna be a video about Dofus patch 2.65. The upcoming changes, I think they're very interesting, so I felt like, let's make a video about it and talk about some of the changes coming to Dofus, because I like this game a lot. So, there's two things. One was the Pandawa balancing, because it's a very dominant class in PvM and somewhat in PvP, I think. I don't think so PvP, but in PvM it's dominant. And they're also changing class spell, or common spells, my bad, because some of them are just old and they've been wanting to update them. So we're gonna go like right into it. Pretty much you can go. I'll probably leave these in the description, I guess, to read. I'm not gonna read all this stuff about this. I already read all of this stuff. But I'm going to talk about was essentially happening. All that's happening is spells like Leak Pie, Carrot, and Release are either getting no change or a change, but they are getting a variant, and that variant is has different effects depending on the spell. So let's look into this. So uh, Leak Pie is getting changed. So uh, there's gonna be two variants. Leak Pie is gonna be inflicts damage in the caster's best element. Currently, it's the only the fire element, which is intellect. So that's pretty interesting. It also allows people to use Leak Pie that aren't always in intellect. So like AGI builds can use it, which is quite a drastic change. That actually changes quite a lot of fights and strategies. So that's very interesting. Like all these changes are really meta changing. Burnt Pie inflicts damage in the caster's worst element. Sometimes you might want to do this even with Omni builds, and Omni builds, for those unaware, are those that are, like say like 500 in every single stat just to use all the elements. So some people are questioning like, oh, what's the point of using the worst element? Well, sometimes for a specific fight, you need to use a certain type of spell to make a boss, unimmune or do some kind of effect, or you want to deal very low damage to the boss or a monster to do a mechanic. So that's why that exists. So I think that's very interesting. I also like that you get the control on which one gets used. One thing I do wonder though is if your elements, there's ways to buff your elements during the fight, like get plus 200 intellect with a Hopper Mage spell. So I wonder if that modifies it during the fight to change which spell is considered, or which characteristic is considered your strongest element. Boomerang's getting changed. So currently it's like the regular version is still steals health and characteristics in a random element. That's what it does currently, but there's also a at least I think that's what it does currently. And there's a variation that says inflicts damage in the caster's best element, which can make it quite a strong nuke, and attracts the target. So maybe you want to move the target towards somewhere or pull them. Really, that's a really dynamic spell. I think the range is pretty good on it. So again, really quite a strong spell. I wonder how much it pulls. There's gonna be a beta tomorrow. Maybe I'll actually try out some things. Actually, I've never participated in a betas because you had to have a high level account to actually participate because it just imported your character. But now you can actually just go in game and level up your character to 200 and stuff. So that's nice. Moving on. Moonhammer inflicts air damage, reduces range. That's what it does currently. However, the new Dark Moonhammer inflicts air damage, increases the caster's range. This is a ginormous, very strong skill. Increase your range, especially if it's like 6 turns, because Moonhammer currently like reduces range for like 6 turns by one. If this can increase your range by 6 for 1 turn, or for six, or by one for 6 turns, that's huge. So I should probably use Moonhammer more. I honestly forget about this. It's actually quite a useful spell to use even now, just because it's a permanent debuff. It's like a big debuff, a long term debuff. So yeah, that the Dark Moonhammer just sounds crazy for some classes that maybe lack a little bit of range in their build even, so they don't even need to specialize into it. So Lightning Strike inflicts fire damage on enemies in an area effect and increases the heal of the caster and their allies. I'm not sure if the allies means like they have to get hit by the lightning or be in the lightning, or is this by default, or is it a different radius? We don't know these things. I wonder how much it increases your heals though. Overall, pretty interesting. It's also an interesting support spell. It's also, do note, it is fire damage. It makes this dynamic such as be your strongest element, so that's very important to note. Uh, Crew Knob's lesson inflicts fire damage and reduces the target enemy's heals. Rebounds on the nearest enemy in a 2-star area of effect max 5 times. So this spell is pretty much I think the same radius, but it reduces the enemy's heals, which is quite useful for some fights. Is it can also, especially for some low level fights, there's some really annoying low level fights where it's like, man, I wish I had some anti heal, but not every class has that, or even ease of access until like later on in their like level. They level up, they get new skills. So this can be a very useful skill for leveling up in certain fights. The chain effect's very interesting, where essentially if a target's here and they're 2 cells away from another target and 2 cells another target, they can just chain. So it's actually quite a strong. I'm not sure if only the effect of the reducing the heals or the fire damage uh, chains. I also don't know if if there's 2 targets together, does it go like does it go back and forth between them and deal damage? I'm not sure, but regardless, that can be quite strong. But again, do note that it is only fire damage, so other classes can still use it, like or other builds, but it's very good fire damage. Tasty carrot. Summon the carrot that heals nearby enemies, allies' enemies. That is what it does currently. Now there's beefy carrot. Summons a carrot that applies shield on its attacker. That's quite big because, well, now instead of just healing off the carrot, you can also get a shield off the carrot, which is quite nice because carrots are usually used defensively to block vision or to heal off of with spells that life leech. Another thing I think is the Nightmare Dofus. The Nightmare Dofus has some effect where, like, if you shield yourself or an ally, you get like some bonus. At least I think so. I don't have one, so I can't say right now on the top of my head. But that can also have some interesting implications. Oh gosh. So summoning Arachne, it's the same thing. It's just summon Arachne, a chance for it to be a major Arachne. But now there's also the ability to summon a major Arachne, but there's still also a chance of, but vice versa. There's I think probably a 10% chance to get a weak Arachne. I don't know if the AP costs of both these skills would be the same or not, or if this was done to maybe if the other thing is probably the combat. Uh, some people gamble with these. Some people summon like a Arachne and be like, oh, if it's not a major one, you lose, and like it's essentially a form of gambling. So I wonder if that was used to be a form of gambling. And same with the summoning of Chaffer. You summon a Chaffer, and there's a chance to be a Lancer, and vice versa. You can summon a Lancer, or a 10% chance to summon a regular Chaffer. At least I'm pretty sure it's a 10% chance because that's how it is in game. So I'm guessing it's like that still. So overall, pretty interesting. Having a strong summon like that, this summon is quite interesting because they can be summons are very useful in high level content because for those that don't know, and I kind of recently, I mean, I kind of do this, but not the specifics. If a monster cannot reach you, they will go after, like an actual person, it will go after whatever summon is closest to them and that they can attack. So you can actually lure bosses and like monsters away from the group and separate them this way. So being able to summon like a major Arachne with more HP can be quite useful. You can't summon a Chaffer though. Release. Release is still the same thing. Release repels allies and enemies in the castle's vicinity. And now there's a new one, Provocation. Attracts targets in an area effect. That is quite huge. Um, I'm not sure. Again, like movement, it's hard to describe movement because movement spells are very useful in very specific scenarios and certain bosses. But regardless, you can't deny that that's very good. Oh, especially for some classes that probably have maybe like there's some bosses where like you need to get. Oh wow, that's crazy. Because there's some monsters like for instance uh the Frygos, I think it's the Tengu Snow Fox. Yeah, the boss you need to have like the monsters in like in a line and like one diagonal and stuff. And so and sometimes like oh I can't pull them all the way, but now you can actually probably pull them in. So these bosses are probably gonna get a lot easier in a good way, as in like, oh, it's an actually interesting ability. So I like that. I like that a lot. Spell variant for weapon skill. So weapon skill so does the same thing, but now it's weapon clumsiness. Decreases the attacker's weapon damage. Um, I was confused on how good this would be. Or what it's useful for to reduce your own weapon damage. But some people have said there's weapons that if you hit an ally it'll do a buff to them. So this is probably a buff for those type of builds. New spells. There's 3 new spells, or rather, maybe 3 new spells and 3 variants of each, so maybe 6. Quagmire places a glyph aura that removes 1 MP from the targets that step on it. I'm guessing I'm not sure how big the glyph is. That's a big question. One square, is it bigger? I don't know. I'm not sure if also the one MP removed is given back once you get off the glyph. It's sometimes traps work like that, so I'm pretty sure. Mound places a glyph aura that increases the range of targets that step on it. So I'm guessing that's actually quite strong too. That's a strong support skill. I also wonder if these skills would have global cooldowns or not. But I'm guessing that if mound can be used defensively, right? And you can go on and get a range bonus. So that's quite interesting. New spell, Mantis Croc. Inflicts earth damage on enemies in an area effect. The caster gains dodge for each enemy hit. That's quite a useful spell. I'm getting it depends on the area effect, but if you lack a little bit of dodge to get out of an area, especially people that aren't into agility, you can all of a sudden get out of situations that are pretty poor. Excuse me. Gosh, I'm talking fast. Dark Mockles. Inflicts earth damage on enemies in an area effect. The caster gains lock for each hit. This can be useful for keeping certain targets in place. For instance, Humper Mage has abilities like element combinations that can give Humper Mage like 70 lock, for instance, for one turn. But the yeah, other classes don't. So this is interesting because some classes might be able to lock certain targets even if they're not specialized into lock or agility. So this is very interesting. Again, depends on how the spell functions and such. Again, I'd probably try it out in the beta test. New spell Candy Bubble inflicts water damage and reduces the chance of landing critical hits. I'm guessing the it reduces the chance of landing critical hits on the enemies. Very strong spell. So I'm guessing it's not AoE. Regardless, reducing critical hits on certain mobs is quite strong. For instance, some mobs only have 15% critical, but if they crit, they do like double damage, so at 500 becomes like 1000. Canny Boil inflicts water damage, increases the caster's chance of landing critical hits. This spell is probably one of the strongest spells in the game. Um, Again, I'm not an expert at this game, but to me, depending on the value, let's see, even if it's like 5% or even like let's say 10%, but it's probably something like 5%, maybe 7%. Who knows? But if it's like 5 or 10%, this can drastically change how you play the game and your build. Some builds have you know max crit chance like 100% crit chance, or some builds are almost there like they're 90-95% crit chance for spells, and if they miss that crit, it just sucks. So this spell might be able to fill that gap and make your class all of a sudden super consistent. You might be able, instead of having mage 2% crit on like 3 items, you can now get like vitality on all of them, or range damage, because there's a way for you to get crit. It's also interesting because it's a water spell. So again, for certain water builds, like water agility builds, this spell gets very strong. Because for instance, my girlfriend Allie. I bought her a set. Then I think the crit chance of all of her skills are about like 83, 90% critical. If depending on how much critical this can get in the cooldown, and if you can stack it, this can make her build a lot stronger. Even though I think water and agility is not that popular in any, but I think it's pretty good. So yeah, that's just a huge game-defining skill, honestly. And we're gonna lightly touch on Panda. So overall, these are really exciting changes. I like that they're not overpowered. Like as in like they add something fresh and new. And I like the 3 new spells. I wonder how you got to earn those. I don't even know how you earn some of these spells, like such as release. We're gonna lightly talk on Pandawa. This class is being changed. So pretty much right at the top of my head, this class is nuts. I've been getting to like the high level content, like the level 200 content in Dofus lately, and whenever I play with the Panda, I'm like, oh my god, this class is broken. Like I didn't even know that when they pick you up, that you have true vision of everything. You can attack over walls and everything. Like that's crazy. I literally typed that's broken. Like that just felt broken in this type of game. And lo and behold, they're getting rid of I think the true sight from that. I'm not sure if because I think Pandawa can throw over walls currently. I don't think they can, or they're going to be able to throw over walls. Um, but again, I'm not too much of an expert in Pandawa, so another thing is when you're picked up, you will be in the passive state. Whoever's picked up will be in passive state, because the most overpowered thing right now in the PVM meta for the past I think 5 years or I don't know 2, 3, 5 years has been have a Pandawa, have a really specked out damage dealer with Volbus and Ochre, which gives them 1 AP or 10% more damage if they don't get hit, and they can't get hit because they're picked up. They just the panda picks them up, the panda tanks everything, and the damage dealer just kills everything with True Vision, can't get hit. That makes PVM extremely hard to balance and design, and I think that's probably why some super high level dungeons have been made the way they are, because it's being balanced around the panda's incredible utility in PVM and safeness. So it wouldn't surprise me if they have to do some balance, aka nerfs to some uh, PVM content. Perhaps. Again, I haven't gotten to all of it, but a lot of people complain about it. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they had to do some nerfs because, oh, all of a sudden this Pandawa that we designed this content around. But I'm not sure how true that is. Again, a lot of the community, if something's meta, the majority of players will probably abuse it. So if all of a sudden Pandawa can't do these things, they'll just say, "Oh, it's impossible." But maybe it's not impossible; it's just made to be super hard. Some things also get super hard to do from this changes, leeches and such, in certain idle combinations. But it's probably still possible. It just requires a little bit of technique. It requires the DPS to go first and the Pandawa second, so that the DPS can DPS take a little bit of hit, but then the Pandawa picks them up. Maybe focus the target that goes um, whatchamacallit, in between the panda and the DPSer, so that it's DPS's turn. He hops off the panda, DPS's, and as long as that one enemy that would go right after DPS is dead, the panda can go and just pick him up, and so you can still do these strategies that revolve on tanking. However, they're nerfing the tanking aspect. Uh, there's a spell that the Pandawa has where they get 240% of their level as a shield on the turn they use it and the next turn. But I believe it's being nerfed. Two nerfs, which is they can't have Vuln and that spell at the same time. Vuln is essentially, it's literally called Vuln. It's like vulnerability. It makes the target take 15% more damage for I think 2 turns, or is it 1 turn? I forget. But for 1 or 2 turns, and you can use this 2 times, so that you'll be 30% more damage to that target, which is absolutely crazy. Um, and they get, but now Vuln and the 240% shield ability is going to be the same ability, as in you have to choose between Vuln or shielding, so offense or defense. And also they're nerfing Vuln and that ability. Vuln can only be cast once, so you can only have 50% more damage buff on the target, not 30%. And the shield ability, I believe, is being nerfed now. I think is based on the caster's HP, not level. So if you're getting eroded and say I have only have 1,000 HP left on a panda, you're only gonna get you're gonna get really shitty shield. So some certain high level content where I've seen some high level content where people with 1 HP and they just get ginormous shield. So that nerfs that a lot. At least I'm pretty sure that's the nerf because I some people on the French forums they talked about this, so I just read some of it. I don't know French, by the way. I just use the translator. Um, they're also going to be buffing damage panda in a lot of ways, like giving them I think more spells and make Omni Panda. So I'm very curious about how strong that will be. Also very interesting, which I always like, is that they're going to be changing the or change review the order in which spells are obtained for better progression. So, for instance, some class maybe just the panda gets super good for PVM at 140, let's say, and it is it correct? Maybe they should get that skill at level 80 and actually be able to do something. So overall, I think all these changes are very good. They want to improve the summons, they have more interactions. Very interested. I think it's really good because the reason I think it's good is because it annoys me. Even when I started playing this game, I was like, "Oh, what class should I play?" And with my girlfriend, and they're like, everyone just says Panda, and or what was I don't know the name of that class. It's that weird orange shirt class. I don't know the name of it, but people would say, "Oh," but mostly people would say, "Play Panda, play Panda, play Panda," and it's just like, how about just say, play what you like, play what looks cute, something like that. Or, oh, play this class. No, these people are just meta slaves. They're just like, play Panda. And even now, I see people like, oh, I'm returning to the game. And you just say, play Panda. Do you want to do easy content? Play Panda. And it's just like, isn't it an issue? Like, the community's been talking about how broken Panda's been for a long time. I've been seeing it almost every week, pretty much. So overall really good. I like this because maybe now in Dreams there'll be a different tank. Maybe there'll be a different strategies now. Maybe in PVM content. 'Cause I feel like, especially in a game like this, there's probably so many strategies and item combinations that people haven't even thought of, especially with the tank role. Because, well, the Panda just does it all so well that why reinvent the wheels essentially? But now you might have to. So, maybe Tank Hopper could be good. They have a lot of positioning skills. They can get quite tanky with their elemental shield and such. So maybe Tank Hopper Mage can be a thing. Who knows? But yeah, I just like that. This should really shake up things and make dreams a lot harder, which should actually improve the economy because there's probably some people that just mass farm content. There's also some other balancing done to certain classes, like Hopper Mage is getting some class set abilities updated and are getting some ability icons updated. Uganok, which is like the dog class, is getting a nerf in Dreams because I think in Dreams the best classes are Panda. Eliotrope, is that I think that's the name. Eliotrope? No, not Eliotrope. Or maybe it was Eliotrope, but Feka? I think it was Feka and two Uganox, and the two Uganox do so much damage. They're pretty much making this one ability that does like 6,000 plus damage, have a global cooldown, so two Uganox can't just use the same skill. So that's really good. The only other issue apparently people complain about, I don't know if the issue is, Sadia is apparently OP in PvP, so maybe they should get that checked out. Yeah, so hopefully now people, when they're looking for groups, it's not just be like, oh, sorry, we're making a 4-man team for this dungeon or dreams. We need a panda though. Like maybe no one's gonna care now because like, do you even need it? No. It's just people are so used to it. So overall, pretty good. I like it. Accessibility, blah blah blah. Broken class. Yep. If you like this video, leave a comment and such. Bye.